All right, welcome back. So we're going to start tackling our first real authentication method. Anonymous auth is just kind of a game for development. It's not something we want to really use at the end of the day. So we don't want anonymous auth. Email password I don't love, but it's tremendously better than anonymous auth, right? If you read email password, so like when we turned it on, this little box was up there. So it allows users to sign in using their email address and a password. The Firebase SDKs provide email address verification. That's a fairly new feature that's actually cool. So you can actually make sure that the person really is that email address. So you can verify it with them if you want. You don't have to, but you certainly can. Password recovery, email address change things. We're not going to do email verification. It is a cool feature. Here's a link. You can go read more about it. It really comes down to just a method called send email verification with completion handler. And then also this Boolean for is the email verified? It's cool. We're not going to do it. Cool. All right, so let's start implementing login correctly. The first thing we want to do is we want to show the login screen at an appropriate time. So right now it just says true or false, which is kind of ridiculous, right? So if you go into your app delegate, you can see it just says false. So we want to be using Firebase. And then what we want to do is instead of true or false for the login screen, we want to actually base it on the auth state. Is the current user nil or not? So if the current user is nil, that means there's nobody signed in, so it's nil. If it's nil, show the login screen. It's amazing how often I get that logic backwards, but I think I've got it this time. The next thing, just while we're in the app delegate here, you can see that there's this method called show login screen or show password view controller. We use that here. Let's go down and implement handle login and handle logout. So the primary thing that handle login and handle logout need to do is they need to show the correct view controller. So that is one of the main things they're going to do. Login and logout might do a bit more than that. So that's why there's kind of this extra layer because they might want to do more. In fact, logout I know for sure wants to do a little bit more. And the syntax for it I can never quite remember. So it uses a try catch block, which admittedly I haven't ever done much with, but I think it's an auth. I'm just going to go to the slides, forget guessing at this. Try exclamation point, auth exclamation point, sign out. Of course it's sign out. Dot sign out. Cool. And so this is the recommended way. I copy pasted it from Firebase. I didn't type it myself, but that is actually how you have to sign out, right? So now if anybody wants to, if they want to sign out, they just have to call this method and the app delegate will take care of the rest, right? So it will sign the person out and show the password view controller. And if anybody wants to call handle login, they can go via this method. That way if I want to do anything else, I can. Those were just kind of setups, right? So instead of doing everything inside of the password view controller, we can kind of start doing things right. This does actually cause some implementation to happen for you, and that's that the sign out button actually does something now, which is kind of fun. So if you run it again, what should happen is it should actually ask that question, is there a current user signed in or not? It should actually say, you can kind of see here, you are already signed in. So it remembered the anonymous sign-in, which is kind of neat. And if you click on this button, it will sign you out. I said it will sign you out. I know it's wrong. It's because I put these in the wrong place. So if you're signed in, of course you want the password view controller. And if you're signed out, of course you want the login view controller. Let me run this again. Interesting little side note there. I bet that I just created a whole bunch of different users. So if I go into my auth area, yep, sure enough, every time I clicked the sign out button and it brought me back into the screen, it created another user. So not the intended behavior that I wanted you to do. Clicking this button should in fact take you to this screen. At present, there's no way out of this screen. You can click on Rosefire login, but all it says is to do, implement Rosefire login. You can click on sign up, you can click on login. Can't decide if I like those uppercase better or like this. I've kind of gone back and forth on that. But there's no way out of the screen at present, which is fine and expected. So let's fix that. Before we start implementing email password though, let's go ahead and strip out the anonymous stuff. So there's two places where we have to strip out the anonymous stuff. One is in our code, so the password view controller. You can see that it did this whole like sign in anonymously thing. This was really just for testing, right? I don't want to ship any anonymous stuff. Instead, what I want to do is, I know this view controller won't get called until somebody is signed in, so I'm just going to call setup Firebase observers. To be honest, I could just roll it into view did appear, but I kind of like this extra layer of abstraction. So that's one place I want to fix it. The other you probably wouldn't guess, and that's that I want to go into my sign-in methods and I want to turn it off. This is, important if you really care about security, because it'll make sure that nobody tries to do any hacky things coming in through your anonymous sign-in backdoor. This just kind of closes that door on them, right? All right, so we've taken out anonymous sign-in, and it was pretty easy. The next thing we want to do is we want to actually implement sign in with email password. Sign in with email password is going to happen entirely in the login view controller. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some code to help you type less, right? So there's this function called login completion callback. And I've got a link to it above, so it just goes to a gist. Let's just go ahead and copy that little helper method in. And then it'll make our lives easier once we start implementing this. So go into the login view controller. Inside the login view controller, you can see that there's these things related to email password. So email password sign up and email password login. I'm going to paste my helper method just kind of right above them. What my helper method does for me, it's complaining first off because it doesn't know what fur user is. That's an easy fix. That is that I just need to import Firebase. What this helper method is going to do is it's just going to show an error for me if necessary. So if somebody signs in and there's not an error, so if there's no error, call the app delegate's handle login. App delegate was already wired up in this app. It's exceedingly sneaky how it was done. It was actually done like in a really kind of sneaky way. There's in the app delegate, there's an extension for all view controllers to where every single view controller can just get the app delegate with this single line of code. It's a clever thing to add on to your app delegate, but it is sneaky, right? But it makes it easy for anybody to use code that's over in the app delegate, right? So if there's no error, call handle login, thing succeeded. If there was an error, show a dialog for me. And I didn't want you to have to type all this showing of a dialog, so you can just copy paste it and also put it on the console. Now I will make you type some. So in order to do email password, you have to be able to sign up and you have to be able to log in. Sign up is optional. If you want to, you can actually in your console, like you can go in and you can manually add users. And it's kind of cool. If you manually add them, then they can't add themselves. You've restricted it to purely a whitelist. I don't think that's the norm, though. I think most apps are going to want to let you sign up from the app, right? So in order to implement this, you're going to need to say auth dot create user is the one I'm looking for. Create user with email password. Yep, that's the one I want. So create a user with an email and a password. These things are already in the UI, so I can actually just use them. The email is called the email text field, and it has text on it, exclamation point. And then the other is the password text field, and he has text on him as well, exclamation point. The completion handler, normally what you would do here is you would just hit enter, right? And it would kind of make a closure for you, and it's really kind of neat. So I'm just going to do it real quick, and so I can hit that, and it'll make kind of this completion thing. Also, if you start typing, it'll make it a trailing closure for you. Instead, what I want to do is I just want to use my login completion handler callback, which is kind of cool. And the syntax is that I don't want to call it, I just want to say, hey, use that function. This is kind of a neat way to use closures as well. So actually, you're going to reuse the same closure in multiple spots. And a closure is really just a function. So I'm just actually saying, hey, use this function as the completion closure, which is kind of neat. Cool, so we just implemented sign up. We could totally test it at this point. Oh, what the heck, I'll test it. It's just not very exciting, right? And so now I can sign up as a new user. I just can't log in as an existing user. Actually, I'd say it's pretty exciting right now. Since we're not doing email verification, you can pretend to be about any old email you want. The rules for emails is that it has to have an @ symbol. It also has to have a dot. And there has to be a character, at least one before the @ between the two, and after the dot. So the minimum legal password is a@b.c. A password has to be at least 6 characters, which is kind of fun to do something invalid. So if I said 1 2 3 4 5, which is invalid, and click sign up, it'll actually just say login failed, right? And it says login failed. The email address is badly formatted. So I'm kind of surprised it said the email address is badly formatted. I thought that was okay. Let me stick on a .com. Maybe the rules have changed slightly, so maybe you have to, okay, yes, that was the problem. Now it says the password must be more than 6 characters long. So that's great. So now it's 1 2 3 4 5 6. So now I can sign up. Cool. So that actually signed up. And you can actually see sign up by looking at your users. So if I go back to my console here, I actually did have to refresh the page. I now have an a@b.c. The provider was with email password, which is great. It tells me information about them, and it tells me their UID, which is fun. And I just realized, yeah, I can actually go ahead and try this thing, right? So right now I can create something. So I'm just going to do my Google Fi, which is Fisher DS. Now this one doesn't have to be any length, right? So I can just say 1 2 3, and that's fine. And you can see that it created a new password for this user, which is kind of cool. Now the thing that's not implemented about this app is if I sign out, I haven't implemented login yet. So I would have to create a new user. And in fact, if I tried to create a new, ABC123 person, it would actually say email address is already used by another account. So actually, I couldn't sign in yet because it's not implemented, and I couldn't sign up again as the same name because it won't let you. Let's go fix that. It's an easy fix, of course. And so we want to handle login. So login is pretty similar to the one above. What the heck, I'm lazy. So I'm going to copy the one above, and the main thing that's going to be different is the method name. And this one is sign in is what I want. Sign in with email. Great, so that's the one I want. So sign in with email, and you can see that it takes an email, and then a password, and then a completion, which is just what the other one did. So my screen is kind of a mess, but there it's all cleaned up. If I want to fix the formatting, I can highlight and hit Control-I. So you can see that create and sign in aren't really that different, but one is for existing people, and then the other is for don't exist. So now I should be able to sign in as that same account as before. So that was a@b.com. My password, it's funny, I've already forgotten my password, but I think it was 1 2 3 4 5 6. And you can see that it worked. Cool, so we actually have a pretty darn functional app at this point. And if you want to, you can sign in as somebody else. I like to pick, whenever I'm not using verification, I like to pick ridiculous things. I don't know why. I'll make the password for the president blah blah. I click sign up, and so now this is a president, and I'll make a password for the president Volt again, and I will add it there. And you can see that it has the username of Clinton H, President Volt, red, white, blue. Again, my joke about the presidential election that is currently upcoming at the time of this filming. We're done with email password. Wasn't that exciting? In the slides, it also reminds you that you can go look at your users, which we've already done once, but I guess we can go do it again because now I've got a couple more. So now I've got the president is using my app. Yes. I also wanted to mention that there's also a thing called an Auth state change listener. You could use that instead of some of the things that we're doing. So we're doing everything with the completion handlers, but there's kind of another way you can do it. Pros and cons of different approaches. I just wanted you to just know that that existed so that when you see it, you're not like shocked. In fact, you'll see it in a later unit. Also, in a closing message, remember that you can do email verification. I just chose not to, which is why I got to use all those crazy emails. All right, that's all we've got for now. See you next time. Bye.